Okay. Ubuntu has become such a global phenomenon. And for us, it's become too sexy because it's all out there, and whether people are walking the talk or not is another story. And that's why it was very interesting to put our hands together to discuss what it really means. We started as a group with the whole explanation of the word Ubuntu. Ntu, the last NTU, is very spiritual for us. That's the soul. That's the cosmic being that comes from God into the world to experience to be human, to experience to be umuntu, to experience humaneness, to know how to behave, to have values and social that create social order. So the cosmic being comes into the world to learn how to have cosmic and social order. That's umuntu. And that happens within the immediate social environment, which is normally your home, and very, very close-knit, because during that level of growth, you are not exposed to the broader society, because we have to get you to understand that umuntu is groomed socially first by the family. And that's why when someone behaves in a way, we ask ourselves, what kind of family does she come from? Umuntu, is this a person? Because we feel at that foundation basis, that was what was being taught. I know we don't have time to go into the different values, but that's how you develop this Ubuntu that everybody's talking about. From that Ntu to Umuntu, once we realize now we are Umuntu, we now have to transform you into Umuntu Abantu. Now you are being socialized to have a social life outside the immediate family. The values that teach you how to be a person of others. And you are now moving closer to achieving harmonious human existence with other people. Because your baseline, your foundation was such that you came out of that home a person. And now you have to be a person of others by knowing how to engage with a broader society, which is not the larger society, but broader than your immediate family, extended families, relatives in the original setting. And we have regimental programs that instill those values through the ancient school of life, esangweni, as we used to call it. The last aspect of this Ubuntu is to walk the talk of being umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. A person is a person because of others. That's when you now are at the level of expressing your authenticity through your interconnectedness and interdependencies and the balance in your life. And therefore you have the ability to coexist with those who are outside your immediate social environment, with those that are not in your village, but beyond. And that's when we say umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. And that's in essence how we create this person, this embodiment of Ubuntu. It's the values that started from you being umuntu a person, from you being a person to a person of others, to an authentic person that is not destabilized by whatever hurricanes they face, but because they have that regiment spirit in them and they know how to engage and coexist with other people. Now, what was also interesting is the combination of this level of consciousness that Helena brought into the group. And we then mapped this Ubuntu according to what she had already designed here, which starts at the baseline with fear. And she was asking, how do we engage fear in this Ubuntu model? It begins with the fact that you have been groomed to be a person, your humaneness. Then there's security, there's comfort within the family, within that environment that grooms you. Doesn't mean they don't beat you up, because to be a Ubuntu you have to know discipline. But it's that fear that we nurture at that stage, and then you grow to the next level until you reach that compassion in society, which is what we're talking about, umuntu ngumuntu ngabantu. That coexistence for us is what was at the highest level of her hierarchy of compassion in societies. And I think therefore we had a very interesting experience of how we can match both worlds, to actually say to actually map a roadmap towards that. And for us, this is how we engaged with our soul, because the Ndu stays there. It's always there. Umuntu, Ndu is there. The God within us. Ndu is the God within us. It's the soul. And that is exactly what's going to go back into heaven, if there is a place like that. But we're open-minded. That's what's going to depart from this world, because all of this is very superficial. I mean, this is all going to perish at some point. What is important is that the soul goes back to its maker, the ultimate source of what brought us into the world. And that's why nurturing the soul for us is very important in Ubuntu. So when we speak of Ubuntu, we're saying soul, coexist with others, because you'll meet them not in this form that you're seeing them in, but you will meet at some point as souls. So it's a whole movement around the soul, and we dance with the physical, and the physical has its challenges. And one of the things that my brother from Rwanda also brought in is the concept of materialism. How does it integrate with this? And we were talking about how originally Ubuntu is about relationships. It's about the wealth within my community and the people around me. But there is also the aspect of the manifestation of some wealth, personal wealth, which is not necessarily the ultimate objective, but it is part of an acknowledgement of your existence that you'll have izinto. But that's not the fundamental, or that's not the primary focus of Ubuntu, what Ubuntu must transcend to. And this is why when we talk about it now. We want to transform it from just being a cool thing that my guest there was saying. Some of her friends want to even have a tattoo, Ubuntu. We want to transform it into an indigenous knowledge system, which is the work that we researchers are going to look for. What are the knowledges at these various levels of growth of a person, so that they become part of a curriculum and they become part of an integration of the soul, the African soul, the language. I hear you, my sister. The language and the soul, the vibrance of that soul must be in the curriculum. It must be in the job. It must be in that workspace that we all spend our hours. And that is why Ubuntu should not be made a commercial event, but it should be about walking the talk. And that's what we practitioners of Ubuntu and gatherers and researchers are trying to do. Thank you. Another you can add, my brother.
Can I add something?
Yes, please.
In fact, in the learning process of being Ubuntu,
yes,
the person at the beginning, he has two choices. He has people, and he has things.
Yes.
And the wrong choice is, to choose to put the people at the second position than the things.
Sure.
And you find that the most important thing is to make the right choice, and to put people first, and then the wealth and the money, and it should come after.
Yeah.
Real wealth, according to that philosophy, the real wealth is people. When you have people, you are rich.
Yeah.
So that's what we have also in Rwanda. This philosophy is quite accepted. We think that it is something one can build on to build a balanced society. And when in that learning process, when you reach the highest level of Ubuntu Ngabantu, you become the image of God. You get back, the first image which you had when you were in the learning process.
Also like to add something which I have noted in our discussion. Finally, we talked about wealth and what does it mean. And in this concept, the wealth is judged based on the connections and on the generosity and the relationships. Where it is used for people, so for making connections and relating to people. And this means the concept of sharing has this central role there. I think that's important for me.
Yes, it's very important to bring both sides argument, because we then finalize our biggest challenge. In as much as we have this indigenous knowledge system that is so valuable, the biggest challenge within the academy and anywhere else is I think, therefore I know, therefore I am. That philosophy that dominates all our work, I think, therefore I am. And if until we transform or transcend from that state to I am because we are, because that's what Ubuntu is all about, I think we certainly have a good shot of making sure that people who think, therefore they've accumulated so much wealth, are not a major blocking factor to development itself. And also, it also protects this need and of wanting to say, I am because we are, and we are eating together, and we are sharing corrupt funds because it can be abused. We cannot go into it blindsided by its good sound, but we have to be able to also interrogate if there be loopholes, because it's not bulletproof. And therefore, there has to, I think when I talk about Ubuntu with my fellow Africans, I find there's a dance, because education has made them think, therefore they are. And now taking them to I am because we are has become a very major task for business, for any leader, for any organization, to transcend that thinking towards I am because we are.
Do you have the same meaning in your Rwanda?
Sorry, just a second. I'd just like to welcome Gary with two friends. If we could just welcome them into the room, maybe.
Yes, thank you. Sorry to interrupt. Thank you very much. That was fascinating.
Can we bring chairs in outside and they can sit here?
Chairs, yeah.
Well, they're very short in time, but this is Dr. Elsa Holloway, among guys, I don't know if you can imagine. And this is the disaster response certification that we spoke of earlier. So I wanted to show your face to the group so they could know. I'm obviously based in Stellenbosch here.
Okay. Nice meeting you.
Sorry, so we just, this is group work we've just done, we just reporting back.
Just a question of curiosity. In Rwanda, Ubuntu has two meanings. There is this side of humanity, and there is this side of generosity. Do you have the same approach? Ubuntu can mean also generosity.
Yes, it's a combination of values. Generosity is part of the interconnection and the sharing and the interdependency. Yes, it's all. We've just summarized it in our discussion. It's all of that: generosity, sharing, humility. All of those values that really enable you to build that network, and that network has nothing to do with material. It's got to do with the souls. I am because we are, not I think, therefore I am. I think that is our biggest challenge in implementing it.
Connect to the natural world, to the whole concept of ecology.
Yes.
So how does this link in?
It's all at the coexistence. reach that stage of compassion in society. You are at coexistence. We coexist with the animals. We coexist with nature, with water, with the environment, and very interesting. Where we can't go into the details. The environmental linkages that I have found, and the consciousness. Even though we cut wood for survival, not to, the consciousness there. It's very important. It goes to the issue of the commons you spoke about yesterday, our relationship with the commons. I mean, I'm always finding people who are blocking commons from others, who are pegging rivers, who are pegging and making pools. Very interesting, because that is not the consciousness of I am because we are. Because if I'm passing by your house, a river is a natural common that we share, I should be able to drink. And the environment is a very big part of it.
Thanks. Others who want to feed in on the concept who also want to ask questions. You had posed questions.
Yes. I hijacked it. It was Yuli's card.
This answer, this gives me a very, very good basic for further questions. And one of the questions which I still have in my mind, this is a little bit of prejudice also, which I have to just share here with you, that I think this Ubuntu concept is fascinating, and I see it works for the societies, for many African societies, and maybe it would work even better if there would not be other influences disturbing that. But how can it evolve from a society, from a system, I would say a little bit local or regional system, where you maybe have one people in Africa and other peoples having similar things, but nevertheless there is always fight ongoing, there is this exploitation ongoing and so on. Do people think bad about themselves because they see a war between two peoples as a violation of Ubuntu, or is it normal because Ubuntu is just for one group and it does not go beyond that into maybe all of Africa or so? This is something I would just like to learn.
I think approach you and other people will add is that this what we're talking about we're recreating. First of all, because I cannot take you to a village where it exists in its complete sense. That would be a misgiving, and I don't want to give you an impression that it doesn't exist. And we are here and now saying, let's have us scholars who can be in the middle of the academy and the natural environment, trying to pull these two iron chains to bring together these engines so that they can work with dignity. Why should I say anything else? And this is where we are at. We are not saying there's a perfect society that practices it. It's memory-based. You'd be lucky like me that I was able to trace it from audio speeches of King Sobhuza, and he lived it. It is very distant, but here. We have traces of it. We try by all means to aspire to it. That's why it's become an interesting phenomena. And that's why I like engaging at Professor Odora Hopper's department, because we're trying to integrate this. We're not saying it must be standalone. It must come in with leadership, with healing paradigms. Some are using it for healing paradigms. It becomes a base, a way of recreating and reconstructing and transforming by enlargement the current academic worldview, and the fundamental clash that will never leave us now because we are here. We are not going to sleep on a grass mat, is that there will always be a clash between I am because we are and I think, therefore I am. That is for generations. We have to fight that. But we must be in a balanced situation to be able to say, these are our two worlds now. How do we pull them together for them to work in development, for them to work in leadership, for them to work in education, for them to work in all various areas of our lives. That is our, I think I could safely say President Mandela has done his part. We need to do this for the future generation. It's our investment to the future generation.
So that interconnectivity can be really the foundation of Ubuntu. But I say that in reality, it is a process. In many countries, we can still be at the beginning of the process. But as you said correctly, it should be an aspiration to get that highest level of Ubuntu. I think it's a challenge, it's a personal challenge, and it is a community challenge to try to get to that level.
Yes, and it was my personal challenge too, because I channeled it. It's well received. I did not humiliate anybody in the process. It was a personal challenge for me to go through this, and my professor in this is King Sobhuza. And people ask that, but I'm a prophet. I'm an indigenous prophet. I'm blessed with visions, and I learn from the ancestors. I did not go for traditional Twasa training. I know how to connect with them so that I can get that knowledge out of them in its most authentic space as possible through this gift. But taking into consideration that I'm also a combination of various experiences myself, culturally diluted, chasing whatever lifestyle in previous life. So the melting pot. But what we have tried to do is use this indigenous gifts to be ways of researching, the ways of getting back to those epochs and trying to preserve the knowledge as best as we can, so that researchers, tomorrow I'll hear you write a paper at university on Ubuntu, so that they get access to this information. Otherwise, if it's not preserved, then it's as good as yesterday. I think on that note, unless there's other questions, I'm getting a cramp. Sorry, I'm getting such a cramp. All sorts of concocted ideas. So to welcome them, Mama, we have to play games. Dilution is one of the games we play, but enrichment is what we get at the end. It was your topic.
So overwhelmed with these naive questions and a real solid introduction to the philosophy.
Ethiopia, I struggled, but I wanted to make the connection to them. And I'm looking at it because it cannot be, for me, I don't believe it can just be a Southern African thing. It's not. It has to be continental. And that's our task as researchers. For it to go global, we must connect the links in Africa. I'm sure in Rwanda, I know it exists because that's where I started with the Reverend Kagame. That's how I read some of his stuff. It exists, but we need, we're challenged as researchers to connect the dots.
Yeah. The challenge is to walk the talk.
So now I will challenge you, seeing that my brother, Uli, now that I've presented on your behalf, I challenge you to find the German version of research.
I know that.
It's in the pipeline.
But Evelin has sent us a message talking of spirit of aloha in Hawaii.
Yes.
Is it possible to, can you tell us about the spirit of aloha?
You all know the spirit of aloha. It's if you forgive, really forgive. Don't hold on to grudge. Do not push others down in order to feel better yourself. I use it in all my birthday greetings.
Yes,
so you got it in my birthday greeting.
Yes. The first principle is you try always to connect it to others.
Yeah.
Then if you forgive, you should immediately forget forever. I think there are 4 principles. I forget the third one. But it's beautiful. You know, when I read it, I found it's the highest level really of humanity.
Okay. And it is taught by Princess Lehu Anani.
Oh.
So she is a princess of the royal family in Hawaii, on Maui, and she refuses to live in the houses of the oppressor, which are the Americans.
Okay.
So Maui is full of villas of very rich, wealthy Americans, and she refuses to live in any of these houses. So she lives in a kind of van, and she sleeps in the night with this car in the mountains, there where her ancestors, where she feels the spirit. She sleeps there, then she gets up and meditates with her husband, and then they meditate to find where in the community there can be of service, where their service is needed. It might be sweep the courtyard somewhere, or bring an elderly lady something to eat, or anything. So they meditate, and then they find out where in the community they will be of service that day. So they live in that way to manifest their ancestors' legacy and teach. Linda and I and Rick, we met her giving a talk in the library of our Maui's capital, and she explained aloha, and it would be almost identical to what you said. And she has this calling from being a princess like you.
To preserve the knowledge. I don't want no bones. Just the knowledge.
Sorry, but I just think again that we mustn't actually see Ubuntu as a philosophy. I think Ubuntu is actually a living system, and I think we tend to kind of think it's a philosophy, and that we kind of put it there. But it actually is. It's a living and a dynamic system. When you talked about Ethiopia and finding Ubuntu in Ethiopia, one of the things that I discovered in Ethiopia is that they actually practice Ubuntu very clearly in that whole family and kinship way of living and working together. They come together, and they're doing it here, and I think we've really got a lot to learn from them. They come together, they celebrate together, then they save together, and they buy together and make sure that everybody has got enough. That's the principle of Ubuntu, and they have that's a living system for them, and that's practiced very widely in Ethiopia.
And if I may say, Norway has been a very, very poor country until recently, and because of that, they have never been conquered by another empire. And they have kept this philosophy or this living system as well until recently. They found oil in 1962 when you were born, and so at the moment exactly this system is destroyed in Norway. It has several words, Celia, dugnad and likeverd. These are words, markers of this philosophy.
Can I read them?
Yes, please.
So the first point is being aware of others and recognizing that there is value in everyone. Second value, developing a feeling for another's needs, having the sensitivity and awareness to assist without being asked. Number 3, not down to pull yourself up. Number 4, giving a person who has injured you and then dropping the issue permanently. So those are the 4 points of Aloha spirit.
Sounds very similar, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Very similar. Okay, shall we move on?
Yes.
People feeling comfortable with that? Yeah.
Thank you to my co-presenters.